Welcome to Tablenauts. My name is Max.
And I'm Doolin.
And today we are here with our first episode where we don't even have a title. Pluto reviews.
Yeah, I like Pluto
Five
reviews.
mini reviews. Pluto's still a planet and it's small. So here's the Pluto reviews, or miniature reviews from Tablenauts. Today we're looking at 5 different board games that are, some of them kind of hot right now. And one of them even on Kickstarter and available to back right this moment. So here's what we have to say about that. We're going to start with one that I think you were the most excited about coming into GenCon, which is Tiger and Dragon. And this is published by one of your favorite game companies, Oink.
I love Oink.
Yes.
Normally, Oink has these small games like Scout, Fake Artist Goes to New York, Deep Sea Adventure. They're very easy to throw in your backpack. This one's not too big, but it is much bigger than what it normally is.
Yeah.
But I believe it is based off an old traditional Japanese I guess tile game. I don't know the name of the game off the top of my head, but it has these very satisfying tiles with numbers on them. And basically, you play a tile, and then whoever else is you're playing with, they can play a tile of the same number to block it and take control of the tile laying. And the goal is to place tiles until you get to the end, or sometimes if you have a low or higher player counts, it's not necessarily the end, but you want to place your thing down, and you get points based off the number that you played down, based off which scenario you're playing in.
It sounds absurd when you're explaining it.
Yes.
It's just like, you do this to place and get the number here, but ultimately it's a pretty simple but also strategical game where you are trying to hold on to your more powerful tiles, but also not let your opponents run away with it or get into a position where they guarantee their victory if they were able to hold on to their one tile and sneak the one ahead. Pretty interesting, but also quite simple at the same time.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it, though?
I like it a lot. It's not anything too complicated, and I do feel like in some situations, the game might feel like it's playing itself from the beginning of the hand.
Concern, and I'm not saying that, like, this game stinks. It feels like it plays itself. That's not the case. It is strategical enough for you to have a good time with it, but there are often times where your hand kind of determines what you can do.
Right.
But it's also not the only game that's done that. And like, it's short enough and kind of niche and cool enough that, like, you can give it the benefit of the doubt. You play a game and you move on, you play another round, and not only that, but you're drawing more than one hand per game you play. So it's not like a game that feels like it's always out to get you. It just can sometimes feel like, wow, my hand stunk, and your hand was amazing.
So I'm just gonna sit here for a couple minutes, and then we're gonna move on.
Right, but that was my concern. Now, we've only played this one time. I've only played this one time. I played it at 3 players with you and Doolin.
Yes.
But you played this several times at 3 and at 2.
Yeah, so that was my only time at 3, but I have played it several times at 2 with my wife, and my wife loves this game.
Good.
She, when I first brought it home for like a week, she was like, "Can we play Tiger Dragon game? Can we play Tiger Dragon game?" And any game that she's excited for, I'm like, "Yes, absolutely."
Oh yeah,
let's
absolutely.
go. And I do think that at first I was worried that at 2 it might not be as good because it would be, I felt like it would be like kind of back and forthy. But because at 2 the most chips you can win in one round is 4, unless you play the 1 and automatically win.
Right.
You're guaranteed at least 3 rounds.
Right.
So there's time for momentum to shift and the game to be different.
There's also the cool Tiger and Dragon tiles that are basically like wild tiles, allowing you to block anything. And then there's also like scenarios.
So the different scenarios, I've only played the like more simple ones.
Sure.
But basically,
I don't know where they are in here.
They're right here.
Okay.
They basically determine how many points you get based off the last tile that you play.
Okay. So, and there's a lot of these. I think we played Dojo Battle.
Yes, that's like the one they do first. They recommend first.
But the fact that there's some interesting little mini games even in here too that change it up seem like it gives it some longevity it might not otherwise have.
Right. So. Yeah. I want to jump into the more difficult ones soon to find out a little bit more about what the game has to offer.
All right. Now the second game on our list is a game that we've had for quite some time, and I've played it months ago with Kenny, and then we kind of just like, we thought, let me get the game out first and we'll talk about it. This is Token Terror's Battlegrounds, and this is published by Token Terrors. It's designed by John D. Campos. This is a abstract strategy game, is what I would call it. And when I first played this game, something about it really confused me. There's quite a few things you can do in this game. You can like and a lot of it has to deal with turning your little miniature,
Your tokens?
your token, to just like 90 degrees. But for some reason, that broke my brain the first time I played it, and I was like, is this guy ready? Is he attacking? Can he be attacked? I was not getting it.
I was very confused on why you were so confused when I learned the rules.
I know. When I pulled it out with you, it was Kenny.
Yeah.
It was Kenny's fault. When I pulled it out with you, I thought the same thing. I was like, Max.
What was previous me thinking?
Right. Why was this difficult? Like, this was a game that we played and found it uniquely challenging and then shelved it for a while because we were like, God, I'm not ready for this. And then we pulled it out a second time. We were like, oh, well, that's easy.
Yeah.
And that was quite a lot of fun, too.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's going to tie into the next game we talk about, too. But it is an abstract strategy game. But there's quite a bit going on where you have your tokens, and the tokens all have unique abilities. And you can manipulate your surge points throughout your turn to kind of do a lot. It's a game where you can have a very simple turn doing very little things, but you can also be like storing surge and saving up for a turn where you can just bam, here's a lot that's happening, and I took over the board. Ultimately, it's a game where you have, I believe, 5 tokens on the board at any given time.
Yeah.
And you have a pool of 10, usually composed of 2 different types of units. So you're drafting that at the start of the game, seeing how you can take advantage of the draft to kind of outmaneuver your opponent. If they don't have any ranged, you can try and go heavy ranged and just stay away from them. And then you get into the game and you're like drawing out of your bag pool and seeing what you have to work with. Really unique game, in my opinion. It is that abstract strategy, but it's really cool. It's just like everything has its own purpose. It's almost kind of chess-like, obviously. And like I said, it's going to tie in quite well to the next game we talk about too. But what did you think about Token Terrors?
So I honestly was not too hot on Token Terrors.
Okay.
But I think that might have been because the factions that I picked were just worse than what you had.
Yeah, we don't know balance. I mean, we have no idea. We have not
this is
played
coming off of one play.
Yeah.
So.
And I've played it a few times. But I can't suss out the balance in this game.
Yeah, you had the elves, which seemed really strong.
The elves do seem very strong. Yeah, and every time I've played it, I think I have played with the elves.
Yeah,
so I have like
do it.
no expectations of going against the elves.
Yeah.
And I should clarify, I also am not like in love with Token Terrors. I think it's quite good. It's quite smart, and it's quite unique in that there are other 2-player abstract strategy games. But I think that this does it differently enough to warrant being on your shelf if that's like your favorite type of game.
Right.
It is quite good. I also don't love it, but it could just be something that we play more of and enjoy more.
Right,
it's not
it
a
has
game
room
that I
to grow,
hate
for sure.
by any stretch of the imagination. I thought I hated it. I thought I hated it. After that first play, I was like, what the heck?
What even is this?
But that second play really cemented it for me as like an enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed tinkering around with my units, and for an example turn with the elves, like you can cast one of your abilities that allows you to move another elf 3 spaces towards you, giving you what you need to take down an opponent, because when you're surrounded by your own units, you get more damage. And then you can sure shot, meaning the opponent has to roll a 6 if they want to retaliate and stuff, or whatever, evade it. There's just lots of like cool things that you can do on your turn in this game, and I definitely feel like it rewards repeat plays, as well as rewarding you just getting familiar with the game system. So we still need to play this more before we have like a final verdict on it. But obviously I quite like it. Josh is iffy on it, but it's got room to grow for sure. Now, the next game that I think we're both huge fans of that we would compare it to would be a game we don't actually have in person, that we've played a lot of on Board Game Arena, and that's War Chest, which is published by AEG. This is also a 1v1 abstract strategy game. Also drafting, also chess-like, where like some of your pieces are like the knight and other pieces are like the bishop and other pieces are like
a flag
who moves other people, or
which is the best unit in the game.
Do you think so?
I do. It's grown on me a lot.
It is really good.
I love it.
I was mad that you drafted the one that allows other people to attack last turn, because I wanted that one, but I didn't think it would be so high on your drafting list. And also, we're both Berserker fans now.
Yes.
I would draft Berserker every chance I got. And Josh was like, I don't know why he keeps getting this guy.
Yeah.
And so I think you just decided to try him out.
I tried it out. It wasn't even because I wanted to try him out. It was because I was tired of you picking him. because Max would pick it every single time.
And then you were like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
This guy's really good.
So the different units, they can move different spaces, and then you can also bolster your units by putting extra tokens on top
Giving
of them.
them additional health.
Yeah, so if they die, then they would still be in there. And instead of being a straight brawl like Token Terrors is, you're trying to capture locations.
Yes, which ultimately I think is what sets it apart.
Yes.
Because we've had games where I have trounced you in the graveyard. Like, you have like 4 units left in total. But you still win.
Right.
Because, like, I'm over here just murdering everybody, and you're just tactily maneuvering around the map and capturing objectives.
Yeah.
It's 1st to 6, and there's, like, you each start with 2, and then there's 6 neutral objectives in the middle of the map. So you have to go out and seek those objectives, causing you to get into engagement with other people. You can't just sit back a la Token Terrors and
pick people off.
Yeah, and pinpoint you and pick you off with my elves. So I do think there's a lot more like engaging interaction in this game.
And there's also the push and pull to where if I take a location you've already taken,
it's a 2-point swing.
That's one more that you have to get.
Right.
So there have been times where, let's say, like you are getting ready to win because you're about to take this spot. So I take the spot over here. So now you still get the spot from me, but you still have to get one more to win.
Right. But now I just even just to back up to 5 or whatever it is. Yeah, there's like the units in this game are just so unique. I think that they do a lot. There's units that can't be attacked unless the opponent is bolstered, or that can't be attacked if the opponent is bolstered. I will say too, we have not gone back to playing base games since we introduced nobility.
I actually have been with Kenny.
Have you?
Yes.
And what do you prefer?
I absolutely prefer it with the expansions.
Yes, 100%.
But it's not bad.
No.
Without it. But I'm just like, oh, I know that there's more.
Yeah.
And it's one of those games where the expansion really does add to it. Because it adds like special abilities that you can use sometimes. So it's not even something like that's incredibly present in the entire game, but it's just one more thing you can do.
Yeah.
And it adds a couple more units.
You have like an initiative token, which can only be used to recruit or gain initiative in the base game. But then when you introduce nobility, not only do you get more units, which is just
always
good news, but you also have like, I forget what they're called, but they're banners that you can put your initiative token on to activate that ability, which is hurt me many times because I only play on the phone. I only play on the mobile, and like, it doesn't tell you what those banners are.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, you played one today, which was sacrifice or something.
Yeah, and you were like, what does sacrifice do?
I thought sacrifice meant like you took him off the map and placed him on one of your zones. And instead you killed one of my guys, and I was like, wait, how? How did that happen?
We both went down. I used sacrifice.
But this is a game we probably played 15 plus times without the expansion. Well, I mean, without the expansion even. And we've probably played another 15 plus times with the expansion, if not more. It's kind of one of those things that we play
propose
rematch immediately, and it's one that I see myself continuing to do that time and time again.
Yes.
It's up there with one of my favorite 2-player games.
Yeah, I am regretting not picking it up at GenCon.
Yeah, I adore War Chest, and excited to try out more and different 2-player games, which pushes us right
of 2-player games
to our next one. Why don't you tell us about Guilty Gear Strive? Now, this is just a demo deck box, but the game is on Kickstarter right now while this video goes live for 14 days at the time of recording, so for less than 2 weeks by the time you're watching this. Tell us about it, Josh.
All right, so this is a card game from Level 99 that is based off the fighting game Guilty Gear, which is just an over-the-top anime-esque fighting game that's very technical. I've played a little bit of it, but I just love it aesthetically, visually. I think it's one of the more fun fighting games to watch.
I've never played it, and I adore watching it. I love watching people play Guilty Gear Strive.
But I believe that this follows the Exceed card system that Level 99 uses. But basically what it is it has a 9-card zone, or 9-space zone, and then 2 spots where your fighters are, and you're playing cards. It's basically simulating a fighting game fight. And I cannot think of a better way for a card game to represent a fighting game.
Yeah.
Your characters are moving around, you're zoning, you have specials,
you're crossing over,
you're building up meter,
you're
spending it for extra attacks.
Yes.
And it's just very fun, very like easy to learn. There were a couple of like edge cases that we were a little bit confused on, but it's a game that's not fully out yet.
Correct.
So there'll definitely be more FAQs and stuff as it goes on.
There's more nuance in this than something like, not that they're comparable, but like War Chest, right?
Yeah.
Like War Chest is, though adding in more units always makes things a bit more confusing, and there's still some units that are confusing. War Chest on its surface is a little simpler than this.
Because there's really no reactions in a game like War Chest.
Right.
Where this, it's like two people are playing cards at the same time when you fight, and depending on what your one
speed.
effects is and your speed, you know, some abilities might go off, and you're
You
like,
get stunned.
yeah, it's like, but does this still happen because this text isn't one of the like code or the keywords that were in like the instructions?
Which honestly is its biggest boon, right?
Yeah.
Like that's why it feels so good as simulating a real-time video game fighting game.
Right.
If it were just you taking your action, me taking an action, it would not give you that vibe at all. But the fact that you're playing at the same time, basically, and each turn happens pretty quickly, it's just, it gives you that feeling, very much so, of interacting with your opponent at a real-time level.
Yeah.
I had never played any game from the Exceed system. Have you at all?
Not yet.
Okay, so we're both new to not only Guilty Gear Strive, the board game, but also the Exceed system that it is based off of. So if you're looking for someone who has past experience with that game, that is unfortunately not us, but I've always been like vaguely interested in Exceed.
Yeah.
But I've never really dived in. But this certainly interests me more as far as something that I want to continue playing and maybe invest in the Guilty Gear game.
Yeah, because I love Level 99, and
big
I
fans.
think like the previous Exceed has been like Blaze Blue and
Street Fighter.
I think like there was like an old Street Fighter.
Okay.
I don't know if it was like even called the Exceed system yet at that point. It might have been. I don't know. And then like Shovel Knight.
Shovel Knight,
But like as a fighting thing, I don't know, that mesh didn't really interest me.
Which, as far as I'm aware, these can all work in
That would be
cohabitation
incredible.
with each other. I think you can pull out Shovel Knight against Guilty Gear Strive. I think, fact check me on that.
Right,
But I'm
no
pretty
clue.
sure that all the Exceed systems can work together, much like Unmatched.
Gotcha.
Which I think this is going to get compared to a lot, but they're very different games.
Right.
They don't really even like scratch the same itch. They are two-player dueling games, but they're not something that
this
I would
is just
even...
like a straight up like card game. You draw your cards, you have your hand, and then
Yeah.
I mean you two move. The more that I'm trying to say that they're different, I'm
You're
like,
yeah, well...
these terminologies are the same,
Yeah.
but it's different.
I'm kind of smitten with this
Yeah.
right now. I mean, we've only played it the one time, so this is all first impressions out the door. We want to revisit this, but we did kind of want to mention this to you as there's only 2 weeks left as well. So I think we're gonna play this more.
Yes.
And I'm excited to play it more because I like this quite a lot. And I don't know if it's the Exceed system that I like or the Strive. I assume it's a little bit of both.
Right, it's the melding of the two.
Right. I think that the Strive theme is just what interests me more than the Blaze Blue or the Street Fighter. Not that they don't, but I'm pretty smitten with this, and I'm excited to play some more, for sure. And that's
Farshore?
Oh!
The big one.
To our final game of the day. This is Everdell Farshore. This is Everdell.
For sure.
Farshore, for sure, yeah. We were sent this game for review, and we have played it just the once so far.
I think we were also technically sent Guilty Gear.
We were, yes.
Yeah,
We should have
we
mentioned
should-
that
we
as
should
well.
mention that.
And Token Terrors.
Oh, but not Tiger
But not
Dragon.
Tiger
I
Dragon
purchased that from Moink Games
or
at
War
GenCon.
Chest. Good point. We should have pointed these out. Thank you, Josh. Guilty Gear, Token Terrors, and Farshore were all sent to us for to give it a shot. Now, Everdell Farshore is the next in line from the Everdell series. This is technically its own standalone board game. It's not an expansion to Everdell, though it is very much in the same universe and very much akin to Everdell as a game. But what do you think about it, Josh?
I enjoyed it. When I was playing it, I thought I wasn't doing well, but then I scored much better than I did the first time I played Everdell. So I think I understood it a little bit better because I played Everdell once before. So this was kind of like my second play of Everdell.
Sure.
But it did some things different. I don't know how different enough because some of the stuff that it changed I wasn't a huge fan of. It got rid of the like comboing of specific buildings with specific animals and changed it to giving you the opportunity 3 times to do it with like just an animal matching the color of a building.
Right. Yeah, I've played Everdell quite a few times, and I am admittedly not the biggest fan of it. Now, I mean, I like Everdell. It is a good game, but when you talk about Kenny Doolin and Kyle.
Kyle's
who
a big
all
fan.
Love Everdell. I'm much less high on it. I do prefer Farshore. I think that there is enough different about it that to me is appealing. I like the ship track.
Yeah.
I like the like round bonuses where if you place this certain thing down, you get to move up that shipment track. I like personally that you can combo stuff easier with the anchors. It's different.
Right.
But it's simpler. And I found in Everdell, even in Farshore, there's a lot going on.
Yes,
right?
there's a lot.
A lot of cards that, and not that it's a difficult game. It's not a difficult game. But there's a lot of cards that bounce off one another. And so you do this, which combos into this, which combos into that, which moves me up here, which combos into this. And that's kind of why you play these games. So I will readily admit that maybe I'm in the minority on this opinion. But for me, the more obtuse part of Everdell has always been trying to find the exact right critter to go in the exact right building. And I do think that having the anchor, though it removes a little bit of strategy for comboing. See, I don't even want to say that. I don't think it does. It removes...
It's just different because I don't know. I like that comboing aspect, but at the same time, like, there is a little bit of a I don't know if chase is the right word, but like when you need a specific critter and a specific thing to come up, this eliminates, I guess, a little bit of that need for it to be so specific.
Right. I think the specificity of Everdell is like you have to have this to get that.
Yeah.
Almost makes it, you're a little pigeonholed into that, right? And though it is easier in Farshore to place an anchor, I also find it gives me more agency. Like, I'm not just looking for that. I can find the most optimal time that I determine to use this anchor to place down something.
Right.
So, like, it's a little more open and maybe easier, but at the same time, for me, I thought it was more fun. It gave me more agency that I was able to determine when and what I wanted to put in that spot rather than just, oh, I played this building, so now I wait for that critter and that critter goes in that spot.
Right.
So to each their own, but to me, I thought it worked.
Yeah, I was thinking of like how specific it has to get when you get a certain animal in a certain building and like how difficult it can be for that situation to come up. And then I remember that in our game, like almost none of us saw any cards with the paw icon because Doolin was like cycling them through the deck and hiding them the entire time.
Correct.
So in that aspect, I'm like, oh yeah, that is a relief that you don't have to wait for those specific cards because someone else could just be killing them.
I think ultimately people are going to say, well, Everdell or Farshore. And I think that for me, the answer is blanket statement Farshore. But Farshore is just Farshore right now, whereas Everdell has experience and 5 expansions or however many it is at this point in time. And I think Kyle always plugs Spirecrest as being like the one to get. And I think that Farshore versus Everdell, I'll take Farshore any day of the week. I think that it adds a little bit enough for me that I prefer it over the base game of Everdell. But if you're asking me Everdell plus expansions versus Farshore, well, I don't have enough experience with the expansions, but I would assume they add enough to carry that weight and make it better as a first-time buyer than Farshore. So ultimately, it's just kind of like what you want. If you're just looking for base game, I would push you to Farshore, but you may push them to Everdell even.
Right. I think like right now as a
Remy,
oh my gosh.
Remy says Everdell.
He gives mad. He's disagreeing with you.
He's like, oh, that guy's trying to get rid of Farshore. No, I'm trying to keep it, buddy.
I think as a new adopter of Everdell, like if you're coming from nothing, that Farshore is probably a good entry point, especially because it, at this point, is most likely the one that's going to continue being iterated on.
Right. Yeah, you would assume there will be Farshore expansions in the coming months and years, whereas Everdell has reached its complete collection, which is a whole other can of worms we can open up if we think that that is a good thing that they did a complete collection and then put out a brand new game that's very similar. But for another day.
So if you were rating it just based off the vertical standee that it has.
Oh God, the Farshore one is terrible.
There's not enough room for the meeple. Maybe you're playing like a 2-player game. Maybe.
Awful. Now, to be fair, even in Everdell, I don't like the tree. I just don't use it. Even when I played that game, I just don't use the tree.
But the tree is easily like double the room, at least.
Right. The lighthouse in Farshore is basically unusable. Unless we're using it wrong.
That's true.
Which certainly seems possible because Otherwise, it makes no sense.
Maybe you're supposed to like dangle them on it or something. Maybe they all like are built to where they can hang.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
What does it look like on the back? Nope.
Nope.
No.
I have no idea. Yeah, the lighthouse in Farshore is unusable.
Maybe you're just supposed to put the ones from the next season on there or something. I don't know.
Maybe we tried to stick them all on there. If you're watching this still, let us know what we're doing wrong with the Farshore lighthouse. But
tell us how to use it, please.
Yeah, please. We would love to hear that. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed our first episode of mini reviews. We'll be doing more of those in the future as we have more games we need to talk about. But yeah, thanks for checking it out, and let us know which of these 4 games, and including War Chest, you think
do a little Photoshop of War Chest.
I'm not gonna. You're just gonna. There you go.
Bye.